A complete history of the United States of America. The history of the United States is a story of vast landscapes, remarkable cultures, and transformative events. It spans millennia, from the first indigenous peoples who lived harmoniously with the land to the modern nation that stands as a global superpower. America's history is marked by moments of triumph, struggle, innovation, and revolution, shaping the identity of a nation that continues to evolve. The first peoples, a land of ancient civilizations long before the United States was a country, North America was home to millions of indigenous peoples. Their ancestors are believed to have migrated from Asia over 15,000 years ago via the Bering Land Bridge, settling in diverse regions from the Arctic tundra to the tropical coasts. Over thousands of years, these peoples developed sophisticated societies that thrived long before European contact. In the Southwest, the ancestral Pueblones built intricate cliff dwellings in places like Mesa Verde and created advanced irrigation systems to support agriculture in arid regions. The Mississippian culture of the central United States constructed enormous earthen mounds in cities like Cahokia, where complex trade networks and ceremonial practices flourished. Along the Pacific Northwest, indigenous communities, including the Tlingit and Haida, lived off the bounty of the sea, creating intricate art and totem poles. In the Great Plains, tribes like the Lakota developed a nomadic lifestyle centered around hunting buffalo. The Iroquois Confederacy in the Northeast established a sophisticated political alliance that influenced early ideas of democracy. These cultures lived in harmony with the land, each with unique languages, spiritual beliefs, and social systems. They viewed the natural world as interconnected and sacred, a perspective that contrasted sharply with European settlers who arrived centuries later. European exploration, a new world discovered the late 15th century, brought a transformative moment in world history. In 1492, Christopher Columbus, sponsored by Spain, reached the Americas, setting off waves of exploration and colonization. Spanish explorers and conquistadors were among the first Europeans to establish a presence in the New World, conquering vast territories in Central and South America and parts of North America. They sought gold, glory, and the spread of Christianity, often at great cost to indigenous populations. French explorers followed, settling in regions of Canada, the Mississippi River Valley, and parts of the Great Lakes. The Dutch established New Amsterdam, which later became New York. However, it was the English who would leave the most lasting imprint on what would become the United States. In 1607, the English established Jamestown in Virginia, their first permanent colony, followed by the arrival of the Pilgrims in Plymouth in 1620. These settlers faced harsh conditions, conflicts with Native Americans, and the challenge of building societies in unfamiliar lands. As more colonies were established along the Atlantic coast, they developed distinct regional identities. The New England colonies thrived on small-scale farming, trade, and a focus on religious freedom, while the southern colonies relied on plantation agriculture supported by enslaved labor. By the mid-18th century, 13 English colonies stretched along the eastern seaboard. The road to revolution. The 18th century saw rising tensions between the American colonies and Britain. The French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, left Britain deeply in debt, prompting Parliament to impose taxes on the colonies to recover funds. Acts like the Stamp Act, Townshend Acts, and the Tea Act sparked outrage among colonists, who protested with the rallying cry, "No taxation without representation." These tensions reached a boiling point in 1775 when the first shots of the American Revolution were fired at Lexington and Concord. The following year, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, proclaiming the colonies' right to self-governance. The Revolutionary War was a long and difficult struggle, but with key victories at Saratoga and Yorktown, and the crucial support of France, the United States won its independence. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 formally ended the war and recognized the new nation. Building a new nation, the fledgling United States faced the immense challenge of creating a stable government. The Articles of Confederation, the first governing document, proved inadequate, leading to the Constitutional Convention of 1787. The resulting U.S. Constitution established a federal system of government with checks and balances. The Bill of Rights, ratified in 1791, guaranteed fundamental freedoms such as speech, religion, and due process. George Washington, the nation's first president, set important precedents, including the peaceful transfer of power. Under his leadership, the United States laid the foundation for its economic system, established diplomatic relations, and weathered early challenges to its unity. Westward expansion and manifest destiny. The 19th century was defined by westward expansion. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803, negotiated by President Thomas Jefferson, doubled the nation's size and opened vast new territories for exploration. Lewis and Clark's expedition charted the western lands, inspiring settlers to venture into the frontier. The concept of manifest destiny, the belief that Americans were destined to expand across the continent, drove this migration. However, this expansion came at great cost to Native American tribes, who were forcibly removed from their lands through policies like the Indian Removal Act of 1830. The Trail of Tears remains one of the darkest chapters in U.S. history. Expansion also brought conflict with neighboring nations. The Mexican-American War, 1846–1848, resulted in the U.S. acquiring territories that would become California, Arizona, and New Mexico. Meanwhile, settlers flocked to the West during the Gold Rush, seeking fortune and new opportunities. The Civil War and Reconstruction. By the mid-19th century, deep divisions over slavery threatened the nation's unity. The industrial North and agrarian South clashed over issues of states' rights and the expansion of slavery into new territories. Abraham Lincoln's election as president in 1860 prompted Southern states to secede, forming the Confederate States of America. The Civil War, fought from 1861 to 1865, was the deadliest conflict in U.S. history. The Union's victory preserved the nation and ended slavery, but Reconstruction faced significant challenges. Efforts to rebuild the South and secure rights for freed African Americans were met with resistance, and racial inequality persisted for decades. Industrialization and social change. The late 19th century brought rapid industrialization. Railroads connected the nation, factories transformed cities, and millions of immigrants arrived seeking opportunity. The Gilded Age saw immense wealth for some, but also stark economic inequality, leading to the rise of labor unions and progressive reforms. World Wars and the Great Depression. The 20th century cemented the United States' role as a global power. World War I marked its emergence on the world stage, and World War II established it as a leader of the free world. The Great Depression of the 1930s tested the nation's resilience, prompting Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs. The Civil Rights Movement and Modern America. The Civil Rights Movement of the 1950s and 1960s brought profound change, dismantling segregation and advancing racial equality. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. inspired a nation to confront its injustices. In recent decades, America has faced challenges like the September 11th attacks, economic crises, and social movements advocating for equality and justice. Today, it remains a diverse and dynamic nation, continually striving to fulfill its founding ideals.